Meltdowns. They are reactions that are entirely unavoidable and out of control. These reactions are the only path left to take to try and win the battles that come with meltdowns and overloads. These meltdowns are made far worse by being expected to talk or walk or problem solve or cope with things such as school. How are you supposed to cope with a meltdown when you're supposed to be learning? Imagine that you are forced to continue to try and concentrate on classwork when all of your senses are on fire and there's an injustification that you just can't get your head round. Meltdowns are caused by overloads and a problem solving and injustification. To me, it makes sense that in massive desperation, when meltdowns and overloads are wreaking havoc with your concentration and your usual abilities, that people like me who are autistic, they might lash out or appear not to try or participate. Behaviour like this is for one simple reason: they have no choice. It's the only way that they can communicate that something is really terribly wrong for them. The last course of action to take, while everything else appears to fail them. Finding the root of the problem rather than passing off the behaviour as the fault of the individual or the parents is very important, because it's the only then that the support networks can begin to build and create the help those with autism desperately need. For instance, there could be so many different reasons in a classroom that can cause overloads that could also be prevented. These possibilities can include no room changes or supported room changes, sitting in the same space, making sure the smells are neutral, making sure that there is not too much to look at, perhaps stuck on the wall in front of them, make sure their desk and the teacher's desk is tidy and clean, making sure that the whiteboard is clean with no smudges or writing from previous lessons. Controlling the class so that they're not too noisy. Noise cancelling headphones and stim toys. And providing time out to stand in a hallway with one-to-one staff or friend or individual just for a little break to give the sensories time to recuperate and regain those abilities that they might have lost. The fact of the matter is that we are not naughty. No matter how our meltdowns are displaying ourselves, we are not rude, we are not wrong, and there is certainly nothing wrong with us. Meltdowns are caused by sensory overloads, with the addition of trying to problem solve or deal with an injustice. Life skills become impossible. Problem solving, listening, understanding, communicating, everything becomes impossible to cope with. With my meltdowns, I tend to scream loudly, humming, hitting myself on the head, clenching my fists, and completely unable to do any type of life skills. At school, I was judged a lot to be quite daft and quite silly because I found it difficult to process information and problem solve. I was bullied by pupils and teachers alike. One of the reasons for this is because I was always put in the lowest set for learning, and it wasn't fair because the learning set didn't actually match my IQ and my abilities. The reason I was put in those lessons, in those lower set learning lessons, is because the support I required didn't actually go any higher than the lowest set. This meant that I was judged to be daft and stupid. Additionally, during lesson time, sometimes I find it really hard to process information and make connections, and if I'm even a little bit overloaded or distracted, which I was a lot at school, then I would be sometimes unable to access the information that I have learned or the memories that I have, especially if there was a change in routine or an injustice or something that was overloading me during class. I would be unable to access my memories to help me. The other thing is that I was often so overloaded trying to process all of this information and the chaos around me that I often didn't really have a choice but to just sort of quietly sit there and try to work. And because it took me longer to process the information, it looked like I was doing nothing. It looked like I was being lazy or careless, or it might have looked like I wasn't making any effort because I was just sat there doing nothing, but in my head I was doing so much, trying to cope with all of the overloads, and simply trying to make sense of my thoughts just took up so much room in my head that I didn't also have the abilities to hold my pen and write down my thoughts or express what I was thinking onto paper. And that was one of the main difficulties that I had at school. I got judged so often and so much because of this inability to be able to process the information and then also express my thoughts onto paper. And I got in trouble so much from teachers who didn't understand. They'd be always saying, "Jolie, you need to actually get on with the work. We haven't got all day. I know you find things difficult, but you need to just get on with it. There's really no reason why you can't." And examples like this particular one are just one of the types of unintentional gaslighting that I experienced from teachers who didn't understand the root of the problem. The root of the problem being that I couldn't process the information and cope with the sensory overloads during class, which made it look like I wasn't making an effort, and it made it look like I wasn't trying, whereas actually I was trying so much. I was trying to be good, I was trying to do the right thing, I was trying to work. It wasn't my fault that I didn't always have the capabilities to do that. I wish my teachers understood.